Books to page, because we're talking about investigation number 6, 383, 383. We're talking about line graphs. Line graphs, taking a look here at line graphs. If you look at, you can kind of read along with me there. It says, often we are interested in seeing the change in data that occurs. So we use line graphs to show change. We use bar graphs more to compare things, so you can see how much is more or less than something. You know, usually we use line graphs to show change, and a lot of times it's change over time. You know, for example, you know, if you did a line graph of your height or whatever it would be, you know, you have your graph here. And you'd have your lines here. You know, it would show, you could have your, you know, when you were 0 years old before you were born, I guess you could say you were no height at all. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 3 years, 4 and 5 and 6, and then it would just be, you know, your line graph would show, let's say this is, I don't know, 10 inches, 20 inches, 30 inches, 40 inches, 50 inches, and you know, when you're born, anybody know how old kids usually when they're born, what are they about? Yeah, something around 20 inches or something like that. So, you know, you go from being nothing, that first year you grow about 20 inches, and then, you know, to year number 2, you probably don't grow quite so much, you might grow 4 or 5 inches or something like that, and then year 3 you might, sometimes you get a growth spurt and go real fast.
My brother.
Okay, and that line graph there just shows you, you know, the change in your growth, and you can see what years you grew more or less than other years, and that's when we use, you know, line graphs. You wouldn't use a bar graph for this because it wouldn't really, you know, it would show you kind of comparison from one another, but it doesn't really show you the growth in something like that. So, going back to the book there, it says. They show you the one there. It says, below we show an average temperature in the city of Boston for each month of the year. The temperature, it's lowest in January and February, then the weather warms up steadily until summer arrives. It stays warm through August and then cools steadily after that. In December, the temperature is almost as low as it gets at the beginning of the year. To show the change in temperature over time, we can use a line graph. We'll draw the line graph on the grid. First, we label each of the 12 months along the grid's horizontal. This is the horizontal, that's the horizontal axis, okay? And that usually, when you're talking about time, that's usually the time. In our case here that I did here, the time was in years. In the book, the time is in what? They're talking about rainfall over a span of months. You know, they had January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. And then the vertical line, which is this one that goes up and down. Remember we've talked about verticals. You know, the vertical line or the vertical axis is what we're usually, you know, what we're talking about. You know, here we were talking about height in inches. There they're talking about amount of rainfall on their thing there. And sometimes you have to decide, you know, what would be your best amounts of increments over here. You know, I wouldn't use feet because, you know, if I went from 1 foot to 2 foot to 3 foot to 4 foot, that'd be a little tougher, although I did use 10 inches. You know, you have to decide what the highest is. Does anybody here 50 inches tall? How many feet is 50 inches?
It's like 4 feet.
4 feet, 6 inches, 4 feet, whatever inches.
Anybody
Anybody 5 feet tall? So if you're 5 feet tall, you're at 60 inches. So we don't really need to go too much taller than that. Right on. And then take a look at page 383. Notice you can see the little blue lines that they give you on their graph there. It starts in January. You know, the dots in January because January and February are cold months, and then it starts to warm up and it keeps getting warmer and keeps getting warmer. What month is the warmest according to that little line graph there?
My birthday.
Christine?
I have a question.
Well, let's do that this first. January, February, March, April, May, June, I believe July was the warmest. And then it starts tapering off again until it gets back to down there. And you can see, I mean, we can connect the dots and make a nice little. Alright, question, Christine?
What is that slope?
Vertical? Yeah, it's messed up here. Vertical. For some reason, that spot on my board doesn't work. Right here. Now, flip the page there, please. Then it says finally the dots connect, and we connected the dots there, and you can see the whole, what the temperature does during those months there. Take a look at problem number 1 there. It says, we're gonna stop this thing.